Today's episode is sponsored by Acorns. Saving consistently is one of the best ways to achieve your financial goals, but you may not know where to start or how to invest. Acorns makes it easy to start automatically saving and investing for your future. You don't need a lot of money or expertise to invest with Acorns. In fact, you can get started with your spare change. Acorns recommends an expert-built portfolio that fits you and your money goals. Then it automatically invests your money for you. Go to acorns.com/FYDJ or download the Acorns app to start saving and investing for your future today. Paid non-client endorsement may not be representative of all clients. Tier 1 compensation provided. Compensation provides an incentive to positively promote Acorns. View important disclosures at acorns.com/FYDJ. Investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. Please consider your objectives, risk tolerance, and Acorns fees before investing. Acorns Advisors LLC. Acorns is an SEC-registered investment advisor. Brokerage services are provided to clients of Acorns by Acorns Securities LLC. Member FINRA SIPC. For more information, visit acorns.com. This is Find Your Dream Job, the podcast that helps you get hired, have a career you want, and make a difference in life. I'm your host, Mac Pritchard. I'm also the founder of Mac's List. It's a job board in the Pacific Northwest that helps you find a fulfilling career. Every Wednesday, I talk to a different expert about the tools you need to get the work you want. Are you ready to change careers? Our guest today says successful career changers share common qualities. Aren't you curious to know what they are? Toye Jones is here to talk about 4 things you need to change careers. She's the Human Resources and Equity Director at Casa for Children. Her organization advocates for the best interests of abused and neglected children in the custody of the state and under the protection of the court. She joins us from Portland, Oregon. Well, let's get started, Toye. You're a human resources professional. You have interviewed so many people. Why do people switch careers?
Well, Mac, that's a good question. And what I'm often finding is it boils down to changes in that individual's life, right? People go through changes, common challenges, when they look at, for instance, a large life event. Another thing is oftentimes they look at something that has went on in like society, the pandemic, for instance. But whatever happens, oftentimes people reevaluate where they are at a certain stage. And when that happens, they go back and they start looking at careers, things they have a natural, innate ability to do. Oftentimes, things like a passion, something that they volunteer, something that they've always been very good at, but maybe took a career change or did something that was more stable, just to, like everyone, to put food on the table, to pay bills, to raise their families. So now they're at a crossroads. And because they're at that crossroads, they can step back and kind of look at themselves and then say, what would I really like to spend the rest of my career doing?
So life events can inspire someone to make a change, and they might begin moving ahead and doing that, Toye, but what might stop people from switching careers and just staying with what they're doing? Are there barriers that prevent people from changing professions?
Well, there's always barriers out there. One of the things I feel that oftentimes kind of stifle our passion and our artistic, for instance, leans. And some of the things that stifle us are the naysayers, the people that say, "Oh, well, at your age, why would you want to change careers?" Or "You have to start all over again." Or "Do you have enough experience in that?" And what people oftentimes don't realize is experience can be volunteer work, it can be paid or non-paid, it can be experience, say for instance, within a setting of education. You could have spent quite a bit of time, for instance, working in, I remember, the financial aid office. That was something that I did in a work study role. And because of that, it leaned me toward finance. It's all kinds of things that when people have naysayers or you have realistic type of barriers. For instance, benefits. How much is that going to cost me if I go out on that limb? Am I going to be able to afford benefits? Am I going to be able to afford to redirect? What about retirement? How far away is that on the horizon? So there are a lot of very logical reasons. But what I have learned is very often, unbeknownst to you sometimes, you have created kind of a path toward that passion. And if you can look and kind of do a timeline, you'll be very surprised how the whole time you've been taking baby steps, oftentimes, toward that new career change.
You're a leader in the human resources space, Toy. So you talk to a lot of candidates, both in your job and in the community. What kind of questions do employers like you have when you get an application from someone who's changing careers?
When I get an application from someone that's changing careers, I like to see you very clearly explain the why. So if you since, say, for instance, you've been in education your whole life. That is what you've always wanted to do. You've always focused on being an educator. But when you step back and you start looking at what you have kind of volunteered in, you may find out that, for instance, you volunteered doing art. And when I say art, I don't mean with children or in the educational setting, although that may be, but you may have volunteered being a person in customer service or a person who works at a museum. And you're in the role where people come in and you help them with the exhibits, or you're the person that shows them around. And what you realize is there's actually a paid role for that, right? There are people who can go into museums, they love art, and they spend a lot of time volunteering, and they realize, oh, there's a role here for a person who's very artistic gifted, very artistically gifted, and most importantly, enjoys spending their downtime in a museum. And so that doesn't take a degree. You don't have to be a person that's always done something like that, but then you have non-paid experience that counts. So if I was a person in a human resource department at a museum and someone came in and said that they wanted that role, and I looked at their, CV, or I looked at their resume, and I didn't see someone who had did a lot of educational background or had a lot of experience actually working at a museum, but I saw that they had maybe 15 years volunteering in various capacities in a museum. Well, that would count for me. And one of the things I always tell people, if you are changing careers, a cover letter. A cover letter does wonders because it explains your passions and your interests in something that's not necessarily your traditional career path. So never forget that. This is your opportunity to explain where, although my professional or educational background is not in this art role, let me tell you why it's a passion. Let me tell you why your specific organization or museum is where I want to give back and work at. And let me tell you how long and how much other experience that's valuable that I have. So, what you bring to the table, your passions, all of those are always important.
Well, let's talk about passion. It is the first of four items on your list of four things you say everyone needs to change careers. And you've touched on this, Toy, but tell us more about why passion matters when you change careers.
Passion matters when you change careers because most of the time you've had a life-changing event. You're at a crossroads. And oftentimes we sit and we reflect. And even if we've had a career that, we may have enjoyed immensely, we may have felt that we contributed to the greater good or whatever. We may have felt that it provided you with the means of, having your family, get to a level where you want them to be. Oftentimes people are providers in their family, and you think of the financial stability. So all of those things are important. But You are still an individual, and every individual brings their whole self to every single what do I want to say? Every single aspect of their life and every single period of their life. So you're still that individual. You still have those same type of passions that excite and energize you. So ask yourself at this stage, what is it that I want to do in the next phase of my career? That's the word. The next phase. Where do I want to see myself? Am I close to retiring? Do I have a decade or 15 years? Do I only have 5? What do I want to do in the next phase of my career? When you figure those type of things out, like I said, it can go back to, say, for instance, you studied something in college and then you took, the more traditional, stable, career path. Say, for instance, you volunteered in something and it's a passion. Let's say there's something you've always been very, very good at, but it wasn't necessarily something that at the time there was a lot of, chance to have income behind it. I think of oftentimes some of the social media and some of the other type of tech industries that are going on now, gaming and software engineers, those type of careers. And but it's something that you always, people said, for instance, oh, you're a tech geek or you're a computer, nerd, whatever the term is. It's something that really, really excites you. And now there's an opportunity for you to shift gears. So that's one of the things that is very important, how you volunteer your time.
All right. Well, let's stop right here, Toy, and take a break. And I do want to talk more about volunteerism. But so stay with us. When we come back, Toye Jones will continue to share her advice on the 4 things you need to change careers.
At Evernorth Health Services, we believe costs shouldn't get in the way of life-changing care, and we're doing everything in our power to make it possible. Behavioral health solutions that also keep your projections at their best? It's possible. Pharmacy benefits that benefit your bottom line? It's possible. Complex specialty care that cares about your ROI? It's possible. Because we're already doing it. All while saving businesses billions. That's Wonder made possible. Learn more at evernorth.com/wonder.
Your brain needs support, and new Ollie Brainy Chews are a delightful way to take care of your cognitive health. Made with scientifically backed ingredients like Thai ginger, L-theanine, and caffeine, Brainy Chews support healthy brain function and help you find your focus, stay chill, or get energized. Be kind to your mind and get these nootropic chews at ollie.com. That's OLLY.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
We're back in the Maxlist studio. I'm talking with Toye Jones. She's the Human Resources and Equity Director at Casa for Children. Her organization advocates for the best interests of abused and neglected children in the custody of the state and under the protection of the court. And Toye joins us from Portland, Oregon. Now, Toye, before the break, we were talking about 4 things you say everyone needs to change careers. And the first item on your list was passion. And you mentioned volunteerism. I do want to talk a little more about that, but let's go to number 2 on your list of the 4 things you say everyone needs to change careers, and that's preparation. What kind of preparation do you have in mind here, Toye? What are you thinking?
Well, Mac, I'm thinking if you have something, you've narrowed down your focus, you've narrowed down your passion, and you know exactly what you want or what you kind of desire to do in this career change. You have to do all that, searching yourself and learning yourself. But then the second step would be the preparation, right? If you're not prepared for the nuances, something may have changed. Something that used to require a 4-year degree may now only require um, a certificate. Something that used to require certification may now require a degree. And there are some things that, they used to require formal education, and now they have opportunities to learn online webinars, and even on-the-job training. So it's very important that you do your little research. You get out there and you have a filler. You start telling people what you would like to investigate and how you would like to learn. And if you have done what most people who think about career changes have done, then you've already kind of had your foot in the door. You've already kind of tested the waters. If you marry the volunteerism and the talents and the passion with this preparation, you could be, a step or so ahead of many other people.
There's so many opportunities to get certificates, take courses, or learn new skills. How do you recommend, Toy, that someone get clear about what matters most to employers? How can you research that question and figure out the certificate or the course that is actually going to matter to a hiring manager to make the career change you want to see happen?
Well, if you're like me and most people that I talk with, in this profession, what we welcome, to be perfectly honest, is feedback. So if you're out there and you're looking for a certain role and you're looking at an organization or a field, it really helps for you to go to like career centers um, at universities or colleges. It helps tremendously for you to kind of get on the website and kind of research open positions. And one of the things that's most effective is you kind of look and kind of go over, and when you look at positions, there's usually a contact there. Let me tell you, it never hurts to say to a person or send an inquiry and say, I'm looking at this position. Here's my resume. Here's a cover letter of the kind of background and experience I have. You don't have an open position at this time. Can you tell me how you do your recruiting and who do you reach out to? What kind of groups? All of those things really help when you're preparing. And when you kind of know, you kind of have a good idea of what you want to do, but you don't necessarily know what it will take to get yourself so that you're competitive in the market. Does that make sense, Mac?
It does. And I'm curious, Toy, I can imagine listeners saying, well, I'd love to sit down with a hiring manager or an HR director like Toye Jones. And I'm curious, and I'm sure they're wondering, when you get those requests, why do you say yes and when or no? What makes you free up the time to sit down with someone and talk to them about their career change?
Well, let me tell you something. It never, ever escapes me if someone is very interested in the organization I work for. If I'm the human resource director, right, at an organization, then that means I'm always recruiting. Whether I have an open position or not, I'm always interested in people, particularly in the roles that I've had in organizations that are very mission focused, and we're looking for individuals like that. I'm always recruiting. I always have my ear to the ground. I'm always have time set aside where I could sit down with the person. It may not be in person, it may be virtual, but I always got 15 minutes, 30 minutes to schedule something with someone. And most people in this field do. If I get to the point where I can't, take a 15, 30 minutes out of, a month schedule and sit down and get to know a person, let a person know exactly the type of individual we're looking for to help us move our mission forward in my organization, then I'm going to tell you, then that's half of our job. So the average person, if you're looking for a job and you're looking to switch careers and you think that you have enough experience or the background to submit a resume, it never hurts to send a cover letter/letter of inquiry and send it to them and say, here's my resume. I am very interested in working for your organization. This is the skill set I can bring to the table. I'm telling you, HR directors love it.
Let's move on to item number 3 on your list of 4 things everybody needs to change careers. And that's progress. What kind of progress do you have in mind here, Toy?
Well, one of the things I like is the timeline, right? So if I'm sending a cover letter or a letter of inquiry about a position and it's a career change, you need to show in your resume and during an interview or even in a cover letter um, that the position is actually a very next natural step, right? So your background is going to matter. But even more importantly than that, you're going to be able to create why this particular field is very conducive to this field I'm changing. And here's my background in it. So there are people, in instance, who may have started off, I love to use this example, in education. And education, the reason why I use it quite frequently is it encompasses a wide variety of different positions. You can be an in classroom educator, you can be an administrator, you can be a person that sets policy, all of those type of things in the same career, right? So you just go through a path. But in the end, if you step back and you say, you know what I've always wanted to do? I've always wanted to do social work. And people will say, well, how does social work match with education? Or I've always wanted to be a trainer. Well, how does training people match with education? If you show that you volunteered and what your interests are in certain fields, then that education background very much can marry over to training a person or doing social work. It all depends on what your education background was, who you were educating, right? If you taught at elementary level or if you taught in, academia, higher learning, a university. All of those things matter. And so that's why it's very important for you to kind of do an outline. CVs, resumes are all great, but even more importantly is a cover letter to explain why this is the next logical step.
Number 4 on your list of 4 things you say everybody needs to change careers is purpose. Toy, why does purpose matter when you change professions?
Well, Mac, if I am changing careers, most of the time it is about a self reflective assessment that I've done. There's a reason why I'm changing careers. Again, it might have always been something that was a passion. It might have always been something at the back of my mind. And there may seem on the surface that it's not logical. But I tell you, if you take time to really do a introspection of and look at yourself, you are going to find out that every single thing you've done, you did it with a certain purpose in mind. Like I said, it may have been that this is something that I did short term, but I did it because of this. It may be this is something that I did that was very stable, but I did it because of this. It may be this was a passion and I did this unpaid. And this is what I did it for. You get centered, you search yourself, you learn yourself. And when you get to those crossroads and you decide that you want to change careers, it has to start with the purpose and what you want to do moving forward.
Well, it's been a terrific conversation, Toy. Now, tell us what's next for you.
Well, right now, I am the Human Resource and Equity Director at Casa for Children, and we are undergoing a wonderful, wonderful compensation conversation at the organization, all about equity. I very recently undertook a training, 6 weeks, intensive cohort with Erica Briggs at NAO. And there were many people at our class. The cohort consisted of several people from area nonprofits, and we were all looking at the equity piece of compensation. That is something we're going to be moving forward and having conversations around. And the people at our organization are some of the most dedicated, committed people you've ever seen. And that is something that you have a vision of an organization and you look at what's equitable, how to create a sense of inclusiveness and belonging. And one of the ways that you do that is by looking at compensation equity.
Well, I know listeners can learn more about you and your work at Casa for Children by visiting the Casa for Children website. That URL is casahelpskids.org. And that you also invite listeners to connect with you on LinkedIn. And when they do reach out to you, Toye, I hope they'll mention they heard you on Find Your Dream Job. Now, given all the great advice you've shared today, what's the one thing you want a listener to remember about the 4 things you need to change careers?
Study yourself, and you will find where you want to go.
Next week, our guest will be Courtney U. Welling. She's a talent acquisition specialist at Portland General Electric. Courtney has more than 25 years of experience in full-cycle recruiting, from sourcing and screening to negotiating and onboarding. You want to make a good impression when you meet a hiring manager. But you might get nervous too, or think you need to behave like someone you're not. Join us next Wednesday when Courtney U. Welling and I talk about why you need to be yourself in a job interview. Until next time, thanks for letting us help you find your dream job. This show is produced by Max List. Susan Thornton-Hoff schedules our guests and writes our newsletter. Lisa Kislenberry-Anderson manages our social media. Our sound engineer and editor is Matt Biarillo. Dawn Mole creates our transcripts, and our music is by Freddie Trujillo. This is Mac Pritchard. See you next week.